It makes no sense. Everyone needs to wear a mask. Everyone needs to get vaccinated. We need to stop having these concerts every other day, because we're going to show is by September the 1st, we're going to be looking at 200,000 cases a day in the United States of America, and by October 1st, literally back to 4,000 people dying a day. That's what the models are showing. And we weren't hitting those numbers in 2020 until November, December. So when you think about the fact that we're going to start hitting those numbers months earlier, our risk of hitting well over a million people dead from COVID-19 this year is definitely a real possibility. We have to stop playing these games.
Dr. Anthony Fauci talked about how this thing could actually get worse than it is right now.
And help me understand, are we headed towards a period once again where we're going to see lockdowns, businesses shutting down, masks routine for everybody, or is this potentially just a temporary setback?
John, I don't think we're going to see lockdowns. I think we have enough of the percentage of people in the country, not enough to crush the outbreak, but I believe enough to not allow us to get into the situation we were in last winter. But things are going to get worse. If you look at the acceleration of the number of cases, the 7-day average has gone up substantially. You know, what we really need to do, John, we say it over and over again, and it's the truth. We have 100 million people in this country who are eligible to be vaccinated, who are not getting vaccinated. We are
Let's see
seeing
if I can fly.
Of the unvaccinated. There's some breakthrough infections among vaccinated. You expect that because no vaccine is 100% effective. But in the breakthrough infections, they are mostly mild or without symptoms, whereas the unvaccinated, who have a much, much, much greater chance of getting infected in the first place, are the ones that are vulnerable to getting severe illness that might lead to hospitalization and in some cases death. So we're looking not, I believe, to lockdown, but we're looking to some pain and suffering in the future because we're seeing the cases go up, which is the reason why we keep saying over and over again, the solution to this is get vaccinated, and this would not be happening.
So Dr. Hilton, there's somebody who's watching, and they're saying, I'm sorry, I'm just not buying it. Yesterday we had Terrence Woodbury on with Kid Strategies. They've done a poll, 52% of African Americans say they're not going to take the vaccine. Talk to them. What do you say? What do you say to somebody right now about taking the vaccine?
Come on, baby, let's see if I can clear that water.
Before they get better. We know that children are going to start schools in South Carolina. It's on September the 8th, I think, or something like that. So we have a matter of weeks. And unfortunately, we know that children, they are curious. They like to go into the classrooms. We know many states are not mandating masks, but even those that mandate masks, we know kids tend to take them off. And unfortunately, we're seeing our children get infected with COVID-19 and unfortunately die from COVID-19. We also know that children can be vectors and pass that infection off to you. So for those persons that are saying, I am vaccine hesitant, I don't want to do this, look around you and honestly, look at the children in your life and say, is it worth their life? Because that's what we're risking right now. It is not a threat, it's a promise. We will be losing far more children than we lost in 2020, of which it was already too many. You know, back in March, we had a report that there was over 40,000 new orphans because adults were dying and leaving children behind. But unfortunately, now, this fall, what we can see is the reverse of where children can be dying in those same rates and leaving parents childrenless. What does that feel like? And especially when we can prevent it and we can stop the spread just by getting vaccinated, by wearing our masks, by trying to stop the spread of this thing, by not traveling all throughout the United States, and particularly to those places where we know we have ongoing hotspots, which unfortunately now, if you look at the United States map, it's pretty much everywhere. We just have to really buckle down these next 3 to 4 weeks so that we can hopefully not spur this thing like a wildfire flame in California last year. You know, but it really is that picture we have to consider.
And the thing that I keep, we also got to remind folks is that this surge getting impact impact, not just on families, but also on medical professionals. There have been a number of doctors who said, hey, there was probably about a 2 or 3 week period, things were returning to. We're now seeing in Tampa, where they've announced no elective surgeries, just like last year, happening in other cities as well. And so this is going to have a ripple effect on the health care of people who need emergency rooms, who need to be in ICUs.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only that, it's also, if you're thinking about people coming in to deliver their babies, if you're thinking about the fact that people are having heart attacks, that people who have cancers and need treatment.
Oosh, I missed.
We are only the healthcare providers. We're human too. There's only so many hours a day that we can possibly work, and that gets stretched. Trust me. But it's just thinking through the process of there's more consequences too of just dying from COVID-19. And this is another thing I would tell for those people who are walking around without masks on, vaccinated or not vaccinated, that if you're infected, but there's a report that showed that up 2 million people they studied with COVID-19. For even those who are asymptomatic, they didn't have any signs and symptoms of COVID, they just went through and got tested. Well, within a 30-day span, they ended up developing some form of abnormality, either physical, fatigue, or chronic pain now, or changes to their lab work. 1 out of every 5 who are asymptomatic develop these signs and symptoms. And so to play around with COVID-19, we don't know what the long-term impact of that will be for your life, and particularly for the children that have 60 years left of life, hopefully to live. You know, if they're in their senior year of high school, why would you risk that when you can go and get them vaccinated and hopefully prevent them from being infected in the first place?
Dr. Ebony Hilton, always good to see you. We're home state this weekend. For Congressman Jim Clyburn's annual golf.
Someone said, hey, tell him to tell Lindsey Graham, since he's now COVID positive, to talk to McMaster's about reversing the ban on masks that they have for kids going to school.
Yeah, we'll be sure to do that. And I can guarantee you there will be social distancing on the golf course. Like, y'all stay over there, absolutely. Ebony, thanks a lot.
Good to see y'all.
All right, good to see you. All right, let's bring in my panel here. Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University. Reese Cole, Platinum Reviews, Raj Mahler, radio TV host. The thing that I think probably drives me crazy the most, Reese, with all of this, are the number of these Republican governors who have signed...
Silent but deadly, baby.
So-called believers in small government, who believe in personal responsibility, who believe that people should make their own choices.
Save the people.
Literally are tying the hands of officials. I mean, it's going to have a ripple effect on the health care of people who need emergency rooms, who need to be in ICUs.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only that, it's also, if you're thinking about people coming in to deliver their babies, if you're thinking about the fact that people are having heart attacks, that people who have cancers and need treatment. We are only the healthcare providers. We're
the private schools threatening to kill the funding of school districts that put in place mask mandates. They're trying to literally save lives.
Yeah. This is what I've been talking about, the danger of this post-truth, post-factual, post-science society that we're living in, where we aren't making public health decisions based on science, based on saving people, based on not overwhelming the healthcare system. We're making them, or not we, but Republicans more specifically, are making these decisions to score cool points with, people on Fox News and with their base who has an appetite for...
Yep, I'm gonna come help you, but hold up. I forgot, I got something to do. That's very important.
Sticking it to the Democrats and big government, and it's to their detriment. And I think one of the reasons why they're getting away with this is because at the beginning of the pandemic, it was kind of presented as a black and brown issue. Oh, it's only black and brown people that are dying. For some reason, they don't care about grandma, great-grandma, and grandpa dying. And so they're saying, well, if some other people have to die, that's fine, too. But as Dr. Ebony J. Hilton just pointed out, and you pointed out, this is impacting kids younger and younger. And as a mother of something happening to her, I mean, I'm vaccinated, everybody around me is fully vaccinated. she likely has some protection through the breast milk, but I cannot fathom the idea of putting her at risk. And so the idea of sending kids to school without masks is just incredibly troubling and disturbing. And it just seems like they don't have a problem signing a death warrant. And I don't know if it's as much hubris or delusion, but either way, it's equally dangerous. And so this is saying, well, we always say on this show, elections matter. Elections have consequences. And people in these red states, they don't deserve to have their death warrant signed. They don't deserve what they're being subjected to. But that's the government that they voted for. And so I'm hoping that there will be some sanity in the courts, that there will be some lawsuits to try to challenge some of these mask mandates. We've seen where the vaccine mandates...
Yo, this is about to be the funniest shit you ever seen.
...upheld by the courts. And it'll be interesting to see how these banning the mask mandates will hold within the courts, if the same logic would hold. But it's very dangerous. It's very
right behind me, bitch.
Some people are choosing to sign up for this danger is even more mind-blowing. So we have to try to tackle this disinformation and this post-science society that we're living in. And the one last thing I will say is, it's so troubling to know that it's not even about trying to contain the disease anymore, contain the pandemic and the spread. It's just basically saying you're on your own. If you don't get vaccinated, you're shit out of luck. And we know that kids can't get the vaccine, but hey, we'll figure it out. We're gonna, and I'm scared to see what kind of death toll and destruction we have to see from kids, because we know from the Sandy Hook shooting, there's an incredibly high appetite for children's deaths in this country.
Alright, boys and girls, this is about to be the craziest ride ever. Woo! Suck it up, Nick. I'm about to drive through hell.
Frost, we talk about, again, impact. We often say on the show that the vaccine is definitely 100%. It doesn't completely ward you off. There are variants, how Delta. They are in Jackson, Mississippi. They're mourning the death of the sheriff in Hines County, Lee Van, 63 years old. Apparently, there was he was fully vaccinated. Apparently, there was a outbreak of COVID in the county jail. He was at home for quarantining, and he died this week. And the thing that, so to be a bad example, what is really just...
I was you, Nick, dropping bombs.
People who are not listening to children's experts. People who are not listening to these doctors who specialize in children. I'm looking on...
Shut up, Nick.
Cleavon's Twitter account, and he had posted a particular video where
she likely has some protection through the breast milk, but I cannot fathom the idea of putting her at risk.
Come on. Streets like dumbasses.
And children impacted. But also caught me this here. 42-year-old John Ayers from Southport, England, died from COVID. COVID was the healthiest person I know. He thought he could conquer the COVID, he'd be okay, and have a mild illness. He didn't want to put a vaccine in his body, said his twin sister.
Oh, no, it ain't. Stuff in the road, stuff in the road.
This is in the hospital. Now, look, this was a very muscular, healthy dude. You know, for the life of me, these people who don't realize what's happening with our children.
I'm trying.
Things, and I think that once you start looking at, you know,
Like, who's putting the stuff in the way? The game is.
Much bigger and deeper conversation.
Fucking cow.
You're talking about children. One of the big concerns that I've been reading about and hearing about Buffalo is the fact that...
Oh, look, a burning plane.
This is an activist group founded by the attorney Robert...
Hi, John.
Who is actually...
You did a good job.
Spreaders of disinformation on the vaccine.
Well, I mean, he brings up a point. I think we should, and I'm saying this is why we have the conversation.
But look, there's a conversation. There's a conversation.
It's okay.
Literally sending out.
That's not good. I'm running out of time.
Yes, and targeting our community specifically.
Well, with flyers. If we don't want to acknowledge him let's look at the fact that if you're talking about having children, and I have 2 children. I have an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old. So when we're talking about having children, we're talking about informed consent. We're talking about what is going to be the impact of the vaccine on their evolving bodies. We're talking about a whole lot of things. This cannot be just a simple rollout. This is not a PR campaign. This is my. This is Reese's.
Made it.
This is anyone that has children or caretakers of children. This is your future. So we can't have a big conversation about vaccinations and experimental vaccinations that hasn't been fully approved, and it won't be at least until February. I mean until September, excuse me. Until we understand the whole picture. I think one of the big parts about this whole process, Brother Roland Reese and Dr. Khan, is the fact that there has been a campaign of everything from fear to coercion.
If you play the next game, she's all grown up.
Federal workers get your mandate or you lose your job.
She fucked up your hand, bro.
I'm scared of death. You did damn right. And I want to show this. I want to show this. I want to show this. I want to show this.
If nobody wants to die.
I want to show this. Dr. Jose Romero, who's the pediatric infectious disease specialist at Arkansas Children's Hospital. This is what he said. Among children less than 18 years of age who were hospitalized in July, 58% were less than 12 years of age. Listen to this. Let me take it back. Just hold on 1 second.
Among children less than 18 years of age who are hospitalized in July, 58% were less than 12 years of age.
Go hang out with your daughter, Nick.
Exemplify and bring out a very sobering aspect of the pandemic in our state. We have a group of individuals that are extremely susceptible to infection because they do not have eligibility for a vaccine. Among children less than 18 years of age who are hospitalized.
So I'm going to pull you in here, Greg. So this is the conundrum that we're in. We are literally seeing children's ICUs filled to capacity all in many of these southern states. They are calling around neighboring states and they're saying, we have no room for your children.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not going to take the vaccine for whatever reason, isolate. Don't have any human contact. If you've already taken it, save yourself. Wear your mask. Protect yourself. If you got friends or loved ones who are not going to take the vaccine, listen to them. Ask them why. Try to reason with them from a distance. And if you can't get through, cut them completely off. And as for this white nationalist Stoop Olympics, and it does look like the governor of Florida is going for the gold medal, which would be the nomination for this party, the White Nationalist Party for the 2024 presidential cycle. You know, whatever happens to y'all, happens to y'all. I'm going to keep saying this until somebody understands that there is no we in this country. There's no national soul, there's no national sentiment. There's only people living in the same landmass with various perspectives.
I went to the wrong spot.
That white woman in Arkansas, they went viral the other day for her tortured interpretation of why God doesn't want her to put the needle in her arm. I wish her well. I want to encounter her in the store. I will not encounter her on the floor. I will not encounter her anywhere in the world. And if you want to die, you go right ahead, because in order to get sick, you have to be alive. Let's not forget that. Meanwhile, the continent of Africa, about 1% rate. The countries in the world that have been rendered poor through structural capitalism, for every 100 people, they've got access to about a dose and a half, as opposed to people in the United States and in the global north who have, for every 100 people, access to 50 doses. And the cover of today's Financial Times talked about the fact that Moderna, which I took, and Pfizer have gone up on the price of their vaccine. They just unloaded $2.1 billion to the EU bloc, and they are actually charging more now for their doses. Capitalism is about to kick in. Now, we'll talk a little bit later about this housing crisis, but those at the very top, they could give a damn about any of us. And if you want to value your whiteness over your life, and you watch that cosplay on Fox between Ducey and Carol Meade, and you decide you're not going to stick that needle in your arm, God bless you. Your God bless you. I'm not getting anywhere close to you. And those of you who are essential workers, who have never stopped working over the last year and a half, who have to deliver the mail and bag the groceries and drop off the Amazon packages and do the DoorDash and drive the Ubers, put 3 masks on, because these damn hillbillies are going to kill themselves, and they're going to drag some of us with them. Don't let it be you.
Roger, you talked about some of the requirements that people are making. CNN announced that there were 3 employees who came into the office multiple times and were unvaccinated, breaking their protocols, and they were fired. There are other companies who are now making those requirements. I have made the exact same thing. Employers can't just think about an individual; they have to think about all the employees. And I totally get companies that are saying, if you don't get vaccinated, you may not have a job.
Well, I mean, if you're going to make that, and we have to look at the slippery slope that type of demand will possibly make. The president said on July 27th that the pandemic is continuing, essentially because he's called this the pandemic of the unvaccinated. I mean, that is absolutely insane, because this pandemic was happening before vaccines even came about. So the pandemic of the unvaccinated, to create that narrative, to which adds to the growing tension around vaccinations and those who are vaccinated, you're creating a war. And when you're talking about, if this gets to the point, Brother Roland, Dr. Carter, BC, if we're getting to the point now that we're going to make vaccinations mandatory, we're going to have a real revolution in this country.
And guess what?
You're going to see, I'm not just talking about from black folk, I'm talking about, let me just case in point, and I think that we should all kind of talk about this a little bit more, but the USA Today, they put out this piece just a couple of days ago where they looked at this question of whether your personal freedom, what's the end of your personal freedom when you're deciding to do something for yourself, and what's the start of doing something for the common good? And as Americans, they said this, the COVID culture point, at what point should personal freedom yield to the common good? What is the common good? Now, is the common good saving lives? Absolutely. I don't think anybody wants to just check out of here, but the common good, based upon what we're seeing a healthcare companies that are reaping rich off of this vaccine. We're seeing the conflicting messages coming from the CDC. 70+% of the American people said they have lost trust in the CDC and other agencies because of the conflicting messages. So what is considered to be the common good? And what is considered to be personal freedom? We're not having certain conversations. We're not giving people a chance to really think about their decision making. It's just
dang it. What happened?
Do this.
No, they actually,
and at the same time, not giving people quote unquote personal choice.
No, they are getting personal choice.
I need to be careful with this fool.
Personal choice to employ you. See, here's the thing I think a lot of people really forget. And that is, when Greg said it, if you don't want to take the vaccine, fine, self-isolate. But the deal though is, if decisions that you make, a decision begets another decision. Somebody says, I am not going to take the vaccination, cool. There are things that are going to come with that you may not like. Now, if they want to say, well, you shouldn't be firing me. I mean, there are hospital workers right now who are angry and upset because hospitals have said, y'all gotta get vaccinated. And the hospital said, and if you don't, you lose your job. Now they yelling and cussing and fussing, but the hospital is saying, we are a hospital. We can't have you. And here's the other deal. How many of us have actually, of the 4 of us sitting here, how many of us have gone to the continent of Africa? And Greg, I've been. Recently, did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Okay. Didn't we all have to take a series of shots before we stood on, for all of our personal freedom? We had to take a series of shots before we could even get on that plane. And if we landed, and they showed our papers, they were like, no shots. Up there, back on that plane, no matter where you came from. Am I right, Greg?
And yet.
But here's the thing about Roland. Does this country have the mechanisms, the infrastructure in place to protect the citizens who may not be of the same mindset? Are we? And I'm asking because, like, for example,
hold on. You say protect them? How? What? Quarantine them under armed house arrest?
What happens on the other side? So okay, fine.
What happens on the other side is we have funerals.
What happens? Then what happens? How do you protect those citizens? You just leave them to die? How do you ensure the rights of those citizens?
No, but Roger, that's the problem right now. The problem right now is, and I can show you, there are people who right now who did not want to take the vaccine, and they literally right now are making deathbed videos saying, "What the hell was I thinking?" They are pleading with people. So you just ask, how do you protect them? They are protecting them. They literally are hospitalized right now. The problem is our hospitals are being filled. And so,
the reason, Brother Roland, just real quick there, brother, the reason that they're being filled is not necessarily because folks decided not to take the vaccination. We don't know, one, what the medical history of those individuals. Two, did they really wear the mask and do the social distancing? I'm all for that. So, did they take the proper precautions?
I'll show you this here. Travis Campbell, 43, from Bristol, Virginia, has been hospitalized more than a week due to the Delta variant, which also infected his wife and 2 children. The unvaccinated man is adamant about making videos encouraging others to get vaccinated now. Here's the video.
This place was basically empty with COVID. Last week.
Travis, my man, I feel so bad for that man.
So it is growing and it is getting stronger. Hate to hear lost a couple.
Why you start shooting them already? Jesus, woman.
24 to 36 hours. COVID. It's still the strain. Something else. I would ask you. If you felt that you had to sit down.
Man, I always save all 3, and now you suck, chick.
Goodbyes and funerals. Or go get the COVID vaccine. What you do? I hope to God that all my friends and family will not say somebody hand me a piece of paper and a pen. That's a sobering thought, of which I have.
Reese.
No, but
I'm sorry, Greg, go ahead.
no. All I was gonna say is, and I wish Dr. Hilton was back here.
Matter of fact, she is. I mean, she just called back in. Dr. Ebony Hilton.
Yeah.
You wanted to pop back on. Go ahead.